Lieutenant Powell, I think we left off at your surveillance at Cafe Rio.
Yes.
I want to take you back now to the Gilbert phone call about Tammy Daybell's death.
Yes.
With respect to whatever was discussed there, did that cause you to feel like you needed to investigate Tammy's death?
Yes.
Why?
Because of the ties with Lori and Alex Cox and the attempted shooting, and then reviewing the report,
Which report?
the one the deputy wrote from first on scene.
What about that report caused you to feel like you should reinvestigate?
Chad said that Tammy didn't.
Into the microphone, please, Mr. Pryor.
Judge, I'm going to object. There hasn't been proper foundation. I don't know what report he's talking about. Who did it? What did it? When?
I'll sustain that in terms of general reference to a report.
Thank you, Your Honor. And to be clear for counsel, this is the stipulated Exhibit 70 that was stipulated to. It's the report.
Exhibit what, counsel?
70. Well, it's the stipulation number 70. It's that report.
Mr. Wixom, has that been admitted formally in the trial yet?
I intend to, but I haven't yet. I can stop now and do so.
I guess that'll make the most sense since we've referenced the exhibit. I want to make sure it comes in before it's referred to.
Certainly, Your Honor. Thank you. May I have just a second, please?
You may.
And Judge, that would have saved an objection if I had known.
I understand.
You know, at this time, I'd like to hand up to the court, after defense counsel reviews it, a copy of the report from Deputy Allison Greenhall.
And it's reference 70. Is that the actual exhibit number for?
Judge, that's the itemized number on the stipulation, as I recall. The state's proposed exhibit number is 418.
418.
Yes, sir.
All right. Would you please mark the exhibit then as 418 that you propose to offer?
Certainly, Your Honor.
This is Officer Powell's report, not Officer Greenhall's report. I don't know what he meant to give me. So, you. Thank you.
All right. The state's proposed exhibit 418. It apparently is referenced in the stipulated exhibit list, but is there any objection to the introduction of state's exhibit 418?
No, Judge.
All right. Exhibit 418 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I ask to have that handed to the witness, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Lieutenant Powell, you were telling the jury what were some of the reasons that caused you to have concern to reopen the Tammy Daybell death investigation?
Chad tells Deputy Greenhall that Tamara didn't have any serious medical conditions.
Let me stop you there. If you're going to refer to the exhibit to refresh a recollection, I'm going to ask the court permission to allow you to do so, but you probably shouldn't read from that.
Oh.
Is that, Your Honor, may he have permission to refresh from the exhibit?
Well, it's actually an admitted exhibit, so
Well, if he's got permission to read it, then we'll continue on.
you can ask your question, but once it's an admitted exhibit, the jury will have that.
Thank you. So go ahead then, Lieutenant Powell.
He tells Deputy Greenhall that Tamara don't have any serious medical conditions and that she don't go to the doctor often.
Anything else in there that caused you to decide to investigate further?
Last time she was at the doctor was 2 months ago for an arm injury.
Okay. So upon reviewing that, considering the other information, what steps did you take to then investigate Tammy's death?
Ran a controlled substance, it's called PMP, Prescription Monitoring Program, where you can run a name and they'll tell you if they're on any controlled substance, medications that are controlled.
Is that a law enforcement program?
Yes.
Okay. What did you find from that?
She was prescribed tramadol.
Anything else from that report?
Not from that report, no.
So what did you do next?
Got with the prosecutor and got a search warrant for Walmart pharmacy.
Why Walmart Pharmacy?
That's where it was prescribed to, picked up.
What did you find as a result of the search warrant from Walmart Pharmacy?
She was prescribed fluoxetine and tramadol.
And what did you do next?
She was prescribed fluoxetine from Seasons Medical and tramadol from Teton Medical. So I got search warrants for those two medical records.
Did you get records from both those entities?
Yes, I did.
You know, at this time, the state would offer its proposed Exhibit 38 that likewise was stipulated to for admission, which for the record are the records of Teton Medical.
And Judge, for the record, my exhibit number 21 should mirror their exhibit number 38. If there is any differences, I'll move for mine as well. But my 21 was stipulated as well as their 38. So there is duplication there.
Okay, and to the extent it's the same exhibit, let's make sure it just gets admitted once, but what's now marked and offered as states 38, I'll have the defense review that and ask if there's any objection.
Hang on, one more. Thank you. Thank you.
As to proposed 38, any objection from the defense?
No, Judge.
All right. Exhibit 38 has been offered and is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I have permission to publish Exhibit 38?
You may, the copy I've got, counsel, is essentially illegible on the second page.
Judge, if I could suggest,
Third page, I would say. It's actually 3 pages.
Judge, if I could suggest my 21, you might find that to be a little more legible, but counsel, if you would like to take a look.
Let me sidebar with counsel, because there's a photocopy so light that it's illegible.
Rocky?
All right, council, I've reviewed the admitted exhibit. However, it's again not very legible in terms of how it was photocopied, but there is a better version of it that was likewise submitted by the defense. So upon suggestion in the sidebar, the court will permit a substitute exhibit. So what was previously admitted 38 will not be admitted, and we'll have that referenced by the defense exhibit, which is the same document in a more legible copy. So what is the exhibit number, Mr. Pryor, that would replace our exhibit 38?
Your Honor, Teton Medical Group records would be defense exhibit number 21.
Okay.
And Seasons Medical Records, which I think council's moving towards, it will be exhibit number 22. And my understanding, Judge, is that we've previously agreed that exhibit number 20 by stipulation is admitted as well, and I'll move for all three of those at this point.
Okay, the defense has moved then for those exhibits 21, 22, and 20. Mr. Wixom, any objection from the state?
No, we have no objection, Your Honor. We agree to the same exhibits, just with a more clear copy. Yes.
Okay, then those will be admitted, and to be clear then for the record, exhibit 38 is no longer admitted as part of the record, being substituted by the more clear version. So you can proceed, Mr. Wixom. Just reference the exhibit number with those new defense numbers when you are referencing them with the witness, please.
Will be, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay,
Your Honor, may I have permission to publish exhibit number 21?
yes.
Lieutenant Powell, what is it that you see on the screen?
The medical records from Teton Medical Group.
And can we explain to the jury, in your role as a lieutenant in terms of helping subordinates deal with unattended deaths, is it typical for you to get medical records and look at them?
Yes.
And you're by no means a doctor, correct?
No.
But you do review them to see if you can discern anything about the subject's health?
Yes.
What did you see in this Teton medical record about Tammy Daybell's health?
The past medical history was just anxiety, depression, and anemia. Other than that, everything appeared to be normal.
So when you, when you sought a warrant for these particular records, how many years time span did you ask for?
2 years?
Was this the only record that was returned?
Yes.
What's the date on that record?
9/6 of 2019.
Does that indicate anything to you about Tammy's health status?
She was healthy at the time that she was at that doctor.
What about the fact that this is the only record? Does that tell you anything about her health status?
It appears she's healthy.
Your Honor, may I now have permission to publish the exhibit number 22?
Yes.
And please just refresh for the jury, who was the second provider that you sought records from under the warrant?
Seasons Medical.
And I want to call your attention to the screen again. What is that you see?
The medical records for Tammy from Seasons Medical.
And in fact, when you sought these records pursuant to a warrant, what time span did you look for?
2 years.
And were there any other records besides this?
No, there was not.
What's the date on this record?
10/6 of 2015.
What, if anything, did you discern from these records?
He was being seen for depression.
Anything else?
No.
What did that do to, how did that impact your decision how to go further to investigate in any way?
Yes,
In what way did it impact?
she appeared to be healthy, so I got with the prosecutors and got a warrant for exhumation.
Can you explain what the exhumation process is to the jury, please?
She was buried in Springfield, Utah, so had to get with the court in Utah, got a warrant to exhume her and that, dig her up and take her to have an autopsy done.
And that order was issued?
Yes, it was.
And did you attend that exhumation process?
Yes.
Your Honor, may we approach at this time?
Yes.
Thank you, Judge. Your Honor, at this time, the state would offer up to the court what we believe is a stipulated state's exhibit 37A through 37H. We've got 2 copies for the court.
And Judge, these were by stipulation of the parties as well as other photos that will be published at a later time by way of stipulation.
All right, I'll take a quick review of them.
Judge, for the record, my exhibits in that regard will be item number 23, 23A, 23B, 23A through D. You'll be my corresponding, and if there's any that aren't presented.
Okay, once you get there, Mr. Pryor, I'll have you offer them individually, so we keep track of the exhibits. Exhibits 37A through H have been offered, and I understand either by stipulation or no objection, the defense has no objection to these being admitted. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right, exhibits 37A through H, all individually are each admitted. And Mr. Wixom, you can continue.
Thank you. Your Honor, may I have permission to publish various parts of this exhibit?
Yes.
Thank you. Lieutenant Powell, I think we had left off with you explaining why you were going to do the exhumation. Could you please explain to the jury what's that process as far as law enforcement is concerned?
Go and observe and make sure that nothing was tampered with.
And what kinds of things do you look for tampering?
Any marks on the casket, and the cement vault and things like that.
And why do you look for tampering?
To make sure I can say that nothing was tampered with and to obscure the autopsy.
So is it safe to say that you were at the graveside when her body was literally pulled from the ground, or her casket was pulled from the ground?
Yes,
And you observed all that?
yes,
Now, did you personally take photos of that process,
no,
but you were present the whole time?
yes,
And you've seen the photos that were taken,
yes,
and they've been admitted, but the photos, you'll be able to say if they were accurate depictions of what was happening?
yes.
Now, if I may now publish.
Yes.
Lieutenant, can you please just explain to the jury, what are we looking at?
The backhoe getting ready to start digging the grave out.
And this is Ms. Daybell's grave.
Yes,
And where is this again?
Springfield, Utah.
Now I call your attention to what's been marked as 37B. What's that?
The backhoe digging the grave.
37C.
Them lifting the cement vault out of the grave.
37D.
The cement vault.
37E.
The lid taken off the cement vault and the casket.
37F.
The inside of the cement vault.
And I'll stop there. In the course of your observation of this part of the exhumation, did you see any tampering?
No,
What did you look at?
the edges, and then you seen all the roses and stuff still on top of the casket.
Did you examine the casket as well?
Yes,
Did you see any indication of tampering there?
no.
And then once the coffin was removed from the vault, what happened with the coffin?
It was loaded and taken to the medical examiner's office in Utah.
And this 37, G, is that a picture of the loading of the coffin?
Yes,
Now, you said that coffin was taken to an ME, to a medical examiner.
yes.
Did you ride in the hearse at that time?
No, I followed it.
Did the hearse and the coffin stay within your line of sight all the way to the MEs?
Yes,
And in fact, did you go inside when they put the casket in?
yes,
Did you observe the autopsy?
yes,
And so therefore, did you also observe the removal of Tammy's body from the casket?
yes.
And what do we see here, Lieutenant?
Tammy Daybell's body.
Did you, at that point in time, look for potential tampering?
Yes,
Did you observe anything?
no,
And was Tammy's clothing eventually removed from her?
yes,
And did you have an opportunity to view her body before the autopsy began?
yes,
And did you see any signs of tampering at all?
no.
Lieutenant, Once the exhumation was completed, did you do anything personally that furthered the investigation?
I assisted with the search warrant on January 3rd,
And what search warrant was that?
202 North, 1900 East at the Daybell residence.
And, excuse me, what was the purpose of that warrant?
They was looking for electronics, and other things in regards to Tammy's.
And your role in that search?
I was there helping search, and when something was found, the FBI ERT team would come photograph it and process it.
And then how were you involved at that point?
After we was all done and the FBI had processed everything, they turned it over to myself and Detective Mattingly. We loaded them in our vehicles and transported it to the Fremont County Sheriff's Office.
Was that the end of your involvement?
Yes,
At some point, was this further investigation of Tammy's death turned over to someone else in the Fremont County Sheriff's Office?
yes, the detectives.
And why was that?
Just, I had other things they wanted me to be doing and wanted it turned over to detectives.
And to be clear, as a lieutenant, how many subordinates do you supervise?
Approximately 24. Oh, no, it'd be probably about 27.
And would that include patrol officers as well as detectives?
Yes,
Is that part of the reason why you as a lieutenant would then just assign the case to a detective?
yes.
From that point forward, did you have any other involvement in Tammy's death investigation?
No.
You know, I may have just a moment, please.
Yes.
You know, at this time, I don't have any further questions for direct. I did want to inquire if the two exhibits that I had been turned back into the court. I see the marshal shaking his head, yes.
Yes, we do have those.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Pryor, you can
Judge,
cross.
thank you.
Once you're set up, Mr. Pryor, in order to maybe make things a little more efficient with your proposed exhibits, I'd like a brief sidebar with council before you start cross, just to discuss exhibits you've mentioned.
Okay, Judge.
All right, counsel, thanks for the sidebar on that. Also, just pointed out to the court, before the state concluded direct, we did have admitted, not actually, given to the court Exhibit 20, which I think is a death certificate, and we need to get that to the bailiff for entry into the court record. All right, thanks, counsel. And you can commence with your cross-examination then, Mr. Pryor.
So you've, officer, you've spent 22 years with the Fremont County Sheriff's Office, is that right?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Pryor, but can you speak into the microphone, please?
And I've been warned about this, Judge.
Thank you.
Sorry. School. You spent 22 years with the Fremont County Sheriff's Office, is that right?
Yes.
And the last 4.5 years have been as a detective, is that correct?
I'm a lieutenant now.
I'm sorry, lieutenant. 4.5 years as a lieutenant?
No, about 7 years lieutenant. I was 4.5 years detective.
Okay, that's what I thought I said. And then 7 years as a lieutenant?
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't get on the street and do patrol or anything like that, is that right?
I do cover shifts, yes.
Okay. And are you equipped with a camera in your automobile?
No,
Are you equipped with a body cam?
no.
That's not standard issue for you folks?
Not for me. I do not have one, no.
Are there occasions when you feel that you need to have a body cam or a recorder?
Yeah, there's possibly some, yeah.
Okay, and would one of those be when you're interviewing witnesses or taking statements from people?
Yes,
And the purpose of that is to make sure that you get the statement accurately. Would you agree with me?
yeah,
But there's also an aspect of that when you have a recorder or a body cam, there's no likelihood that what someone says to you could be misinterpreted. Would you agree with that?
will you repeat that one more time?
Well, if you have a body cam or a recorder and you're interviewing someone about an important topic, well, like this case, when you interview witnesses, you want to get the facts right from what they said, correct?
Yes,
And it's important that you get the facts right when they tell you things, right?
yes,
And it's also important that it's a tool that you use to ensure that everybody's playing on the same page. Would you agree with that?
yes,
Okay, so it's generally a very good idea to use a recorder or a body cam when you're dealing with subjects or people that where there's serious consequences, correct?
yes,
And in this particular case, this is a serious case, right?
yes,
You've never been involved in as much of a serious case as you've been in this case, correct?
no,
Most serious case you've been involved in 22 years, right?
yes,
So I would assume you took precautions that when you interviewed witnesses, you took the necessary step to make sure that you had a recorder with you. Is that right?
yeah, try to, yes.
Okay, try to. Okay. Now, you received a call from the Gilbert Police Department, right? About this case with Tammy Daybell, correct?
Yes,
And I read your report, and I think you accurately reflected what they were talking to you about. Lori Vallow and Alex Cox were involved in an attempted shooting of Brandon Boudreaux. Is that right?
yes,
And Chad Daybell was not implicated in that, correct?
no,
Right. But he was someone of interest because he had been hanging around Lori Vallow,
he was a known associate.
known associate. But there was no implication that he had any involvement in the shooting of Brandon Boudreaux, right?
No,
That was Alex Cox and that was Lori Vallow. And when did that shooting take place?
I don't recall a date.
What year?
Would have been 2019.
Okay. Okay. You don't recall the month, right?
I received the call in October.
Okay. So at this point, your investigation was centered around the fact that Lori Vallow and Alex Cox knew Chad Daybell somehow, right?
Yes,
And as part of your surveillance, you were able to establish that in November, right?
November 1st.
Okay, of 2019. At that point, you were able to establish that there was some sort of a relationship between Lori and Chad, right?
Yes,
And that was after Tammy's death, right?
yes,
So really, if two people who are not married are going to a Hobby Lobby to pick up whatever they're picking up, that's not really suspicious, is it?
it depends, I guess.
Oh,
It ain't suspicious, no.
well, you said depends. I want to know what's suspicious about two people who are single going to a Hobby Lobby. Why don't you tell me what that is?
Well, it ain't suspicious, no.
Okay. And then going out to eat at a restaurant, there's nothing suspicious about two people who are single going to a restaurant to have something to eat. Is that right?
Right,
And there's nothing suspicious about Lori Vallow going over to Chad's house and being there for a short period of time. There's nothing suspicious about that, right?
no.
Okay. So I'm having some difficulty here. And the difficulty I'm having is that you get a call from the Gilbert police suggesting that Chad Daybell knows Alex and Lori, right?
Yes,
And based on the fact that they know them, you get an order from a judge to dig up Tammy Daybell, right?
with the medical records and everything, yes.
Okay, with the medical records and what's the everything?
Chad saying that she had no medical issues.
Okay, all right. Judge, Judge, could I have exhibit number 21, please?
Yes.
And please bear with me, Judge. I'm sorry, it might take me 2 seconds to get this brought up.
That's fine. And before it comes up or is published, make sure, number one, we know what it is. And number two, it's admitted.
Okay. And Officer, it's previously been admitted, Teton medical records, that's the medical records you subpoenaed, correct?
Yes,
All right. And 21 is already admitted, so.
It is, Judge, and I'm going to go through 20, 21, and 22.
All right. Thanks for clarifying. Those are all admitted, so you can publish without permission, Mr. Pryor, if you'd like.
So I'm at the top of Teton medical record. And what I'm looking at on the left-hand side of the letter where it says past medical history, right?
yes,
Okay, and the first thing at the very top is anemia, right?
yes.
Did you research what anemia is?
No, I did not.
Did you research what the medical conditions and what people experience as a result of being diagnosed with anemia?
No, I did not.
Did you research and look into the fact that anemia can have life-threatening consequences?
Sorry, Judge, the counsel is testifying.
Well, it's cross-examination, and I don't know what that objection is, Mr. Richmond. What's the basis?
Judge, he's describing how serious anemia is, and this witness has never spoken to that issue. So counsel is trying to testify as to how serious anemia is. It's a medical condition. This witness was freely admitting that he's.
I don't want a speaking objection. I'll sustain the objection on since facts not in evidence.
Okay. And let's move down the list. The next one is anxiety, right?
Yes,
Okay. And then the one down below that is depression, right?
yes,
And Tammy Daybell was taking medication. She was taking Prozac, which is fluoxetine. Is that right?
fluoxetine, yes,
Fluoxetine. Correct. And she was also taking tramadol, right?
she was prescribed tramadol, yes.
Right. And what's the tramadol for?
Pain,
Okay. So she was in some discomfort of some kind.
yes,
Okay, and then we go down below where it says family history. And would you read the 4 lines under what Tammy's family suffers as a result of family history, please?
Mother suffers with cancer and thyroid issues. Father suffers with depression and heart disease.
Okay, thank you. And Judge, that's all I have for 21. Judge, could I be handed exhibit number 20?
Yes.
Thank you. And Judge, again, this has been previously admitted by stipulation of the parties.
It is admitted, yes.
Now, did you take the time to look at Tammy Daybell's death certificate?
No, I did not.
You didn't consider that.
No.
So you looked at some medical records and said she has anemia and she's on Prozac. And you looked at Officer Greenall's report, right?
Yes.
But you didn't look at any death certificate.
No.
Did you read Brenda Dye's report?
No, I did not.
Did you read Officer Greenall's report?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so when you took consideration of why you dug up Tammy Daybell, and by the way, just before we get there, Tammy Daybell's children were never notified that you were digging their mother out of the ground, were you?
No, there was not.
Yeah. So her own children were not advised that.
Overruled.
So her own family were never advised that you're digging their mother out of the ground without letting them know in any shape, form, or opportunity to respond. Is that right?
Yes.
I'd like you to look at the certificate of death, and I'm going to point down to where it says the cause of death. You see my arrow down there?
Yes.
Okay. And the cause of death, they list 2 things on the cause of death for Tammy Daybell's death. And would you read those out loud, what those 2 are?
Cardiac event and pulmonary edema.
Okay. Heart issues, right?
Yes.
And you saw that in the medical history of Tammy Daybell, her father had a history of heart disease, right?
Yes.
So you didn't take that into consideration when you decided to dig Tammy up out of the ground, right?
No, I'd never seen this before.
You never looked at it.
No.
You never talked to anybody about what the death certificate said before you decided to have her dug up, right?
Correct.
And you went in front of a judge and you put on testimony to justify digging her up out of the ground, and you didn't even as once look at the certificate of death, did you?
No.
Okay. Judge, counsel previously discussed Officer Greenall's report, and for the life of me, I don't see the exhibit number on that, but it was admitted.
What is it?
I believe it was 418.
41A.
418.
Still sitting right here, Your Honor.
Oh, 418 's still up on the,
And Judge, could I have the bailiff take back exhibit number 20
yes.
and exchange it with me with the,
And yeah, 418 was still up there, so.
thank you. Oops, let's do this. Size, okay. Okay, so can you see that report?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the second.
Mr. Pryor, I need to have you talking to the microphone.
The second paragraph talks about how Tammy was found by her husband. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like you to read, starting with the second paragraph to the end where it talks to 911. If you would read that loud so that everybody can hear that, please.
He called for his son to come help put Tamara back onto the bed.
No, I'm talking about where the words start with the deceased. I'm sorry, up here where it says the deceased. That's where I'd like you to start.
You want me to read the whole paragraph?
The whole paragraph, if you would, please.
Okay. This deceased, Tamara M. Daybell, was found by her husband, Chad G. Daybell. Chad told me Tamara had been sick and had a severe coughing fit at approximately 0000 hours. During this fit, she vomited, then she returned to bed and she said she was fine. At approximately 5:40 hours, Chad felt the blanket slide off the bed and woke up to see Tamara had partially fallen off the bed. Chad told her to get up, and when she didn't answer, he turned on the lights and found that she was deceased. She had partially fallen off the bed, her head was touching the floor, and her feet were still on the bed. Chad said she was cold and stiff. He called for his son to come help put Tamara back onto the bed. Chad then called 911.
Okay. So when you talk about a lack of medical conditions, did you read this report before you went to judge and get an order digging Tamara Daybell up out of the ground?
Yes.
Okay, so did you happen to notify the judge that Tamara was having fits the night before? She was vomiting and was sick and was generally not doing well. Did you mention that to the judge?
No.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to the second paragraph now. And if you would read the second paragraph, starting with Chad said Tamara.
Chad said Tamara didn't have any serious medical conditions. She was taking fluoxetine for depression, but did not have any other prescriptions. Chad said the last time she was at the doctor was approximately 2 months ago when she had fallen in the driveway and injured her arm. The doctor had given her steroid shots and she was not having further issues. Chad said she had been feeling sick with something like a cold lately and that she would have gone to the doctor today. Chad said she has low blood pressure and faints occasionally. Chad said that she has been going through menopause and also has been having aches and back pain for approximately 2 weeks and that she was going to visit the chiropractor soon. Chad said she didn't go to the doctor often because she didn't like doctors.
And you were aware of that based on the research of her medical records that Tammy Daybell didn't like to go to the doctor, did she?
Yeah.
Right. And you were aware that Tammy Daybell would use herbal medicine and oils and other medications in lieu of going to the doctor to try to cure herself in other ways, untraditional ways, right?
That's what the report said, yes.
Right. So instead of going to the doctor for fainting spells and for these other things that were going on, she would take supplements and do things like that, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then I'll go back down. And the next one talks about Chad showing all of the over-the-counter medications she takes. He said she's taken approximately 10 bottles on the tablet every morning that she takes to help her. Okay? And then read the last line where it says most. In that paragraph I just read, where the last sentence says most of what was.
Most of what was in the cupboard.
Mr. Pryor, you turn that sideways so he can't read.
Sorry, that makes it tough, doesn't it? I was
Okay.
trying to pull one on you, apparently. Go ahead.
Most of what was in the cupboard was essential oils and natural remedies and some pain medications.
Okay. So it looks like the list below talks about the Prozac, acetaminophen, ibuprofen, whatever vitality extracts are, but at the very bottom, it says supplement, right?
Yes.
And what is that supplement for?
A supplement for bruising and sore muscles.
So for treating bruising and sore muscles. Did you have any history that Tammy Daybell had a history of easily bruising?
I didn't see any, no.
Did you see anything that suggested that Tammy Daybell had bruises on her body at the time she passed away?
Yes, there was some.
Yeah, and you're aware that those bruises were old bruises, right?
I don't recall.
Okay. And if Brenda Dye put in her report that they were old bruises, you would have no reason to dispute that, right?
Yeah, I have no reason. to
Okay.
dispute.
But Tammy Daybell clearly was taking medication for bruising, right?
That's what the report said. Yes.
That's what the report says, right? And we're going to try to do this, see how skilled I really am.
Okay.
But at the very bottom, it starts with the last sentence. I was later advised by the coroner, if you could read that for me.
I was later advised by the coroner that Tamara's son told her he also takes fluoxetine from the same bottle as his mother. I was also advised that Chad told the coroner that sometimes Tamara had minor shaking fits consistent with seizure activity. Tamara's daughter Emma also advised the coroner that she takes clogging classes with her mother, and her mother has seemed to slow down in her movements in the last couple months. Tamara had also been saying she felt out of her body recently.
Okay. So again, Mr. Daybell is talking to the coroner or Officer Greenall, and it talks about the fact that Tammy's having seizures and that she's having fits shaking, and that her daughter is saying that she's slowed down and she's not able to keep up and that she's been feeling out of sorts, right?
Yes,
And based on that, you didn't take that into consideration when you decided to dig up Tammy Daybell, did you?
no,
Okay. The next sentence, with I advised.
I advised the coroner of everything I had learned from my investigation, and she agreed that the death was a natural one.
I advised the coroner of everything I had learned from my investigation and agreed the death was a natural one. That's Officer Greenall, right?
Yes,
So that according to Officer Greenall, in discussing this with the coroner and with all of this information, came to the conclusion that Tammy Daybell's death was a natural one. Right?
yes,
And you didn't report that to the judge when you decided, and it's not this judge, you didn't report that to the judge when you decided to get a warrant to dig Tammy Daybell up. You didn't mention that to the judge, did you?
no,
The last sentence in that paragraph, would you read that one for me?
the coroner determined an autopsy was not necessary unless the family wanted one, which they did not.
Okay. And then the very last sentence before Officer Greenall, where it says, it was
determined by the coroner that the death was due to probable heart attack due to pulmonary edema.
okay. And this is a determination that was made by a coroner at the time of the what you called the unattended call of Tammy Daybell, right?
Yes,
And in talking with the folks down in Gilbert, they told you that Chad knew Lori Vallow, right?
yes,
They had no other information about the death of Tammy Daybell, did they?
no,
You had the information, and you're the one who took that information and went in front of a judge and got an order to dig Tammy Daybell up.
yes,
And you did it without telling the children that they're digging their mother out of the ground. Is that right?
yes,
And you didn't take into consideration the seizures, did you?
no,
You didn't take into consideration the shaking, did you?
no,
You didn't take into consideration the anemia, did you?
No,
You didn't take in any of the medical information other than you told the judge there's no medical history here. That's what you told the judge, isn't it?
off the medical record, yes.
Off the medical records, right?
Yes.
You didn't look at anything else, right?
No,
You didn't look at the certificate of death that says pulmonary edema, heart issues, did you?
I did not see that, no.
You didn't see it or you didn't look?
I didn't look.
Judge, I'm done. This officer's under subpoena to be called back. I intend to call him back.
All right, well, I'm going to allow some redirect.
Lieutenant Powell, excuse me. At the time that you sought the exhumation order,
I don't have anything.
were you aware that Chad and Lori, that Lori's children were missing?
No, I believe yes.
Were you aware that Chad and Lori had a quick marriage after Tammy's death?
Judge objects. It goes beyond cross.
Overruled.
You can answer that.
Will you repeat the question, please?
At the time that you did seek the exhumation order, had you become aware that Chad and Lori had had a quick marriage right after Tammy's death?
Yes.
And in fact, as to the dates, what was the date again that Tammy died?
I was notified October 19th, 2019.
And in fact, what was the date that you surveilled Chad and Tammy holding hands at Hobby Lobby?
November 1st,
That 12 days?
approximately, yeah.
Mr. Pryor asked you several questions about Allie Greenhall's report.
Yes.
Do you recall who provided the bulk of the information in that report?
Chad Daybell.
And did you ever find out prior to requesting an exhumation whether Chad Daybell wanted an autopsy?
The reporter said he did not.
Did that factor into your decision to seek an exhumation order?
Yes.
How?
Just with all the circumstances and medical records and everything.
Prior to seeking the exhumation order, had you ever heard the name Charles Vallow?
Yes.
And who is that?
Judge, this is going beyond cross.
I do agree with that at this point.
May I argue it, Judge?
Go ahead.
Judge, with the extensive cross-examination about challenging this officer's request for exhumation, I think it's not outside the cross. It's maybe another data point, but it's well within what the cross-examination
Well,
was.
I don't know if it is or not. The way it's asked, it just seems to be going into a new area. So if it's tied in somehow to the cross, then I may allow it. But for now, it's objection sustained.
Lieutenant Powell, were there other reasons that I've not asked you yet that went into your decision to seek an exhumation order?
All the deaths surrounding Lori Vallow and Alex Cox.
What were all those deaths?
Her,
Judge, again, we're going into an area that was not opened up.
No, I believe
I'm
this
going to
is,
object, Judge.
that's opened up, so I'll overrule the objection.
Could you please explain to the jury all the deaths, what you meant by that?
Lori Vallow's last husband had been shot by Alex Cox.
Did you understand approximately what date that had occurred?
I don't recall the date.
Was that part of the information that was relayed through Gilbert Police Department?
Yes.
So how did the fact that Lori's husband had been killed factor in to your suspicions about Tammy's death?
And well, you had the attempting shooting, the murder.
And I'm just asking you from a common sense perspective as a law enforcement officer, how was that information impacting you to decide to get an exhumation order?
Judge, calls for speculation.
I'm asking, oh,
Give me a second. Overruled.
you may answer the question.
Will you repeat that?
I'm just asking from a common sense perspective for you to please explain to the jury why all of that information bolstered your thinking that you needed to seek an exhumation order.
Because of all the deaths around around Lori, or Alex and Chad.
So is it safe to say that when you do any investigation, do you just follow the facts and where they lead you?
Yes,
And so despite what was in Ali Greenhall's report, did all these other facts lead you to seek the exhumation order?
yes,
And to be clear, you were asked several questions about the death certificate
yes.
and who issues a death certificate typically.
The coroner?
I'm just asking if you are aware of whether or not the coroner at the time of Tammy's death had all this other information about Lori and Alex and Charles Vallow.
No, she did not.
Objection, Judge. There's been no basis to establish where that knowledge comes from. Moving to strike.
Yeah, the objection did come in late, but I will sustain the objection for lack of foundation, and I will strike the answer. So I'm instructing the jurors to please disregard that last answer.
In terms of your surveillance of Chad and Tammy, how long that day, let me withdraw that. Please tell the jury again, what day did you initiate your surveillance of Chad and Tammy?
November 1st, 2019.
Thinking back now, how many hours did they spend together that day?
Objection, relevance.
Again, it goes to the relation.
Thanks, Mr. Wexham. Objection's overruled.
I'd say approximately 4 to 6 hours.
And were they riding in a car together?
Yes, when we surveilled them to Idaho Falls, there was.
Did you happen to notice if there were any children with them at the time?
No, there was not.
You never saw any children with them at all?
Never seen any children.
No, I have no further questions.
Judge, could I recross in the event that he brought up some things about Mr. Vallow that I would like to be able to touch on a little bit?
Very limited in scope.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Pryor, I'll allow on that.
Officer, you made an interesting comment about Chad Daybell and Alex Cox. Are you aware that Chad Daybell is not implicated in the murder of Charles Vallow?
Yes,
Okay, not involved, right?
not to my knowledge, no.
And in the shooting and attempted murder of Brandon Boudreaux, same thing. Alex Cox, Lori Vallow are implicated in that crime, right?
Yes,
And Chad Daybell is not implicated in that crime. Is that right?
not to my knowledge, no.
So this other knowledge that Mr. Wixom spoke to you about, this knowledge that somehow Chad, he must have known these people. So because he knew those people and he's not implicated in those other murder and attempted murder by Alex Cox, Chad's not implicated. How does that give you a right to dig up Tammy Daybell?
With all the association and all the deaths around it.
Oh, so because she went to Hobby Lobby with him, because she went to a restaurant, and because you surveilled them, and obviously they were having a relationship, right?
Yes,
And that's the other information you used to dig her out of the ground, right?
yes.
Judge, I have nothing else.
All right. And not having any more redirects, so is it correct from the state then that this witness is likely to be recalled?
Judge, given today, we may well reserve the right to recall this witness. And I believe he's under subpoena by the defense as well.